There is much you still need to learn, John. Not all white people will accept us for who we are. You should know this from the experience you had before you came to us.
I can make the arrangement immediately. I can have somebody from the institution here by next week at the latest.
John, what are you doing? No!
What is your name, young man?
My name is John. What yours?
Chief Red Sky. Nice to meet you, John. Even though we've tried to keep our language, our traditional ways, and our spiritual ways alive, I don't know what it's like to be an Indian anymore. I don't have the answer.
Today's special guest is Adrian Esposito, and we're talking about Adrian's passion, which is writing and producing and directing films, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, your mom kind of cued you before we took our break and said she wanted you to mention something about animated studios. What's that all about?
Animated Studio is a filmmaking and animation studio, and I totally forgot to give them a plug, you know, because they were the ones who really helped me with my films and got me started with the making of the South Africa Stand, that 8-minute animated movie I'm telling you about. They actually, I have a few work. I have the two of them. Fred Armstrong helps me sometimes when there's a local filming I have to do. He helps me with the camera work on some of the films. And there's Mike Boas. He comes over my house and helps me with editing choices I have to do on my films.
So are they your mentors then, you would say?
Yeah, I would say they're my mentors and friends.
Oh, very cool. Okay. How does your filmmaking promote self-advocacy?
Well, my filmmaking helps promote self-advocacy to show that, hey, if I couldn't do it, so can you. I mean, I came, you know, my childhood and upbringing wasn't really horrible, but still I felt like I wasn't accepted by the school system. And look where I am now. You know, so if I can do it, I think so can many other people with disabilities. I mean, this is the digital age, as we all know, and we can have cameras available and Final Cut Pro editing software. And my message is, if you have a camera and editing software, just go ahead and get your message and vision out there.
Okay. Can you give like a couple examples of how your work has impacted people? Have people come up to you and said, "Oh, Adrian, this is a great film and this is why I liked it," and something like that?
Yeah, a lot of people have liked my films. For example, a lot of people think Bury My Heart with Tonowanda is based on a true story. And I have to tell them it's, even though, you know, it is fictional, but it all came from my head. But even though it is fictional, a lot of the like the reservation and some of the one of the characters, Elias Parker, who was in the film, they really did exist and they do exist.
Okay. So I'm sorry. I was going to ask you something on the tip of my tongue. We were talking about that. We asked about your mentors, and how I know what I wanted to ask you. You have Asperger's syndrome, right? That's what it's called?
Right.
Does that ever interfere with your ability to make films?
Well, it's funny. It's a good thing you asked that. With my Asperger's syndrome, my autism, it is difficult sometimes to control my emotions and my anger, like for example, a lot of it like when my computer upstairs, it acts funny, it crashes, and anything that goes wrong with my computer upstairs, I get a little irritated and angry. And my mom,
I can relate to that.
Yeah, and my mom, she doesn't like that, and I try to keep a cool on it. And it just, it can be frustrating at home with the computer, and
I
my
swear
mom,
mine.
Yeah, and my mom knows, that I'm not yelling and cursing at her. It's the computer, and
I do that.
But when it comes to the computer or any other little thing, I become Wreck-It Ralph.
Oh, okay. What advice? I probably already asked you this, but actually, I'm going to ask something different. What has been your favorite film that you've produced and written? Because you said you've done 4, right?
Right.
Okay.
Well,
so do you have a favorite?
Well, my favorite film that I have written, edited, and produced, it's a documentary, would have to be We Can Shine From Institutions to Independence. And my favorite narrative film is the Bury My Heart with Tonowanda film. And hopefully that will, as time goes on with more documentaries and films, that may change, you know.
Yeah. For people who don't know what Asperger's syndrome is, could you explain it a little bit about your disability?
Well, Asperger's syndrome is pretty complex. For me, it's a lot of the anger problems and so forth that I actually go see therapy for it with Dr. Sugarman and Dr. McCabe, who are wonderful people who are helping me out with controlling those things. But a lot of times I rock, I do a lot of things. I sometimes obsess of compulsive, So it depends,
Yeah. But all that really doesn't interfere with your filming. I can tell because you do a great job with your films.
It doesn't interfere, but it can like be frustrating.
Yeah.
Let's just put it that way.
So have you found that people who see your films, are they more accepting of you once they see what you can do, what you've done?
Yeah, I think a lot of people can. I think they do accept me, and it depends on the person too. I've tried to become friends with certain people, but they never respond, or so it depends on the person, I would say.
Yeah, I agree with that. Okay. So what kind of advice would you, I think we already talked about the advice you would give somebody who wants to become a filmmaker, but in general, what do you want to say to the public about yourself?
Well, what I want to say to the public about myself is that I am who I am. I'm not gonna expect people to tolerate my behavior problems. But on the long run, just because I have a disability doesn't mean I'm not a person who has feelings, emotions, and dreams, and wants to make film. Wants to be a filmmaker and like change how people with disabilities are viewed in films, in dramatic, serious roles.
I think it's a great idea, great message you're putting out there. So I was just going to tell you, we have to wrap up. We have like 2 minutes left. Is there anything that we've not talked about that you want to bring up real quick?
Well, I'm just hoping to continue with my filmmaking, and I hope to have I do have my driver's license.
Cool.
And I want to get a car and so forth. And my job, well, that's another story.
Yeah. Okay, I want to thank everybody for being with us today. Adrian, thank you, and thank you to the viewers as well.
This is Eric Bissant speaking for Self-Advocacy in Action, a Santa's Western production. To see more Self-Advocacy in Action, you can go to YouTube or follow us on Twitter or like us on Facebook. You can also go to www.saneaction.com. That's www.sainaction.com.
Fuck.